Hello and welcome to week two. This week, learning from crowds is our topic, and our task is to use a crowd-based source of knowledge to teach one's self something new. So something new for me, there are so many things that are new. I'm fairly new to this position as a tech coordinator, coming from teaching math and science to middle schoolers to now trying to keep networks and computers running. So the newness is evident every day, every week. So there's plenty there for newness for me. But specifically, anything new in this case would be anything that I am not familiar with and need an answer to or would like some more information on from outside of my local world. I kind of open up here and think about, all right, what is the crowd, and what is the crowd that I could tap into specifically in the case for this particular task, but then maybe more specifically in my everyday life, how could I use this strategy to greater advantage overall? So starting off here, I just said, well, what is a crowd-based source of knowledge, and thinking about what that might be, and what might my crowd be that I want to tap into for this particular week. Questions that came to mind: does the crowd need to be a certain size? I often think of it as being big, but I guess that's not necessarily so. Does it need to be on Twitter or Facebook or Reddit or whatever? Can it be an online forum setting? As I'm connected there, that might work out well. And is a survey a way to get crowd-based information? Things that I pondered as I tried to determine what sort of a crowd would I be tapping into as I went forward. And so, kind of taking off from there, we look at I didn't feel that the crowd needed to be a certain size for this task. It was very open-ended. So it could be large, it could be small, it could be on social media. Limiting my crowd size probably would limit my response and the diversity of my response, but it would still work. Here, that tweaking my crowd to a forum or to a survey setting, I thought would limit the diversity of my responses, but seemed to be something that might fit well as I proceeded to complete this task. And so, having identified possible crowd parameters that need to be considered, and realizing that I could go most anywhere with this: large, small, online, offline. It could be a group of students that I tap into, a group of teachers, friends, advice, any way I could gather it, seemed to fit within the parameters of this task given to us today. And so then I needed to look at, all right, what is it that I would like to know new, and what sort of new things are we going to tap into here, and what would be useful. And so I began kind of brainstorming ideas around what am I going to figure out here for my knowledge piece, and how does it tie to the crowd. So my crowds looked at technology. So my technology piece, my position, my job, I thought, oh, this could be an opportunity for me to actually kind of move forward and gain some information that would be relevant to things I'm doing here at school on a daily and weekly basis. I then looked at teaching. Within the school, are there teaching aspects of teaching that I can tap into and maybe gain some knowledge and information on that. I then kind of got away from being focused on work and looked at boats with my interest in boats. What could I do there? I have lots of questions there. What could I do around boats to gain some information with this task? And lastly was around a wood boiler that I have in my house, and specifically some information around wood boiler with an online group that is very helpful in assisting those of us who need to know new things around a very specific technology. So to begin here, going back to the top of my little list here and technology, I have a program at school that I use to manage all of the iPads and laptops for both schools that I work at. And I have one iPad that has, for some reason, has lost its connection or its association with my management program. And that's fine, except it has all the rules and restrictions on the iPad. So I've seemingly lost connection with the iPad and am stuck at this point. The iPad works fine, but you can't add things to it, nor can you take things off of it. So it's a conundrum I find myself in, and so kind of having this iPad disassociation paradox, I thought, maybe I could answer that, and I have a spot where I can go and sort of an online community that I can tap into, and hopefully they could help me. That's one piece I thought of. Within technology, thinking of school, running the tech department, what are some things, the question is always for me, what are some things that we can do better as a department to assist our teachers in the classroom with the work that they're doing with their students? So that was certainly something that came to mind. And then looking for some strategies around using iPads in the classroom that I could tap into to share with my staff as they begin, many of them right now are beginning to use iPads for the first time. And so that can be a daunting task for a teacher to step into that and be handed, iPads and not really having a comfort level of how to use these devices. So that was a possibility. Then looking at the wooden boats, I just thought, oh boy, I could get some information on what's the best trailerable sailboat between these two dimensions of 18 to 22 feet long that could be recommended from a crowd-based source, and thought that would be kind of fun. And lastly was the wood boiler piece. I have a wood boiler at my house. This last week the power went out. The boiler was running. When the boiler runs and the power goes off, the pumps that move the water through my boiler do not work anymore. The temperature rises greatly in the boiler. It's not a happy scene. And so I was thinking I could tap into a specific group to kind of get some information from them on how to wire up a heat dump, as it were, to be active when the power does go out. So those are some things that I kind of came up with as questions that I could ask specific crowds for this task, and see where that takes us. I then will start with the lower one, the bottom one, the boiler one, and this is a group specifically on hearth.com. It's about wood boilers, and this is a place where I've many times have in the past, it's been a while, but have kind of posted questions to this group, and they are great at getting back to those in need if there are answers out there that can be taken care of. And I ended up choosing not to use this particular option, but this was one that kind of I got thinking about and thought, oh, we could make that happen. I then, moving up my list from a previous section, the wooden boat piece. Again, this is a wooden boat forum. Lots of questions here that are posted and can get answers from lots and lots of people who are interested, and that's the difference between a forum for me and kind of general greater social media of a Twitter or a Facebook or a Reddit would be this very specific group that's interested in this particular topic, and they can answer very specific questions, which is kind of nice. If I ask this question on Twitter, I would get a very different response, I believe, than I would get in here. And so that's something to keep in mind, knowing your crowd. My question, of course, that I dreamt up was the trailable 18 to 22-foot sailboat. And looking in here at this point, I see that, sure enough, somebody else has already got that question. So sometimes just looking around, the crowd is already discussing the questions you have in your mind, and you can get the answers from the crowd in that way. So that was kind of a fun discovery as well. Then moving up to my iPad issue, the group here is called Jamf Nation, and we can kind of tap into this resource of computer users who are managing these devices from around the world. And so this is a much larger group of people, but again, a very specific group and understanding of why we're here and what we want to talk about. So in this case, someone a while ago, I'd kind of done the, hey, this is a question I have. Can I find the answer already in here? And sure enough, I found the question. The answers were not that helpful, and no one really had one. So I posted here that this is my situation, and received back a couple of answers around this, and some of them were helpful. This one was helpful in kind of giving me some background knowledge, but it didn't answer my question, unfortunately. And so I'm still looking for that answer as we move forward, and we'll see where that takes us. So one of the things that was asked is, how do you know when you've learned the knowledge that you've been given? And I still have more to learn here, and I think crowd-based learning doesn't end. It continues on, and this is something that is out there and people will continue to look at, and I will probably post once again on my own specifically to see what kind of responses might be out here. These were great examples. This solution here, erase the iPad via the settings app. Unfortunately, that's the problem I have, is the fact that the settings app on this particular iPad is restricted by the enrollment that I put it under, and so I am in this stuck mode. So we'll see. More learning and more knowledge still to come on that one. And lastly, I kind of checked out this school piece of as a tech department, what can we be doing better to support our teachers in the classroom? And really, this is the one that I kind of focused on, and it's a question that I've kind of dreaded for a long time, but it's one that certainly needs to be asked from time to time. And so I was able to get it out there, and I just did it in a format that I think was fairly accessible to my staff members in getting, some responses back. And again, this one will continue on. I will need to kind of check in with them over the next week and see what they have in mind in the way of, do you care to respond to this? Do you have any further um, interests in giving me some feedback? But I just ask a very straight up question: how could the technology department better fill your needs as an educator? And I wanted it to be fairly wide open, because if thinking about knowledge here, I could narrow it down, but for this particular group and question and scenario, I want it to be as broad as possible. And the responses that I've received certainly lend itself to that. I think that worked out well. We've got this computer. They like, new computers, some of for the ed techs, and I totally agree. So it ranges from, I just want new things that will actually work, please, to, hey, I really like it if you could come into my classroom and work with me, or do some programs that you think are important around certain things. And I really appreciate the kind of thought that these two individuals ended up putting into this. And I look forward to working with them around this topic, and getting this department, and really myself, into their classrooms to assist them as we bring technology to our students within our schools. So that kind of brings that section to a close. Those were the avenues that I kind of hit on. The knowledge that I've gained, this last one here, this informs me greatly. Things that go in the budget for next year, right here. Yes, those need to be there. Yes, I see some presentations to staff. That's something that I need to work on with our staff. What are those going to be? Working with students. Here we have specific engineering or programming, Scratch. We could bring that into the classroom. And this person looking for things that I would bring in, something that I propose to the teacher to bring in to the students and help them. And a lot of that may come down to simply, online awareness and being safe online, or it may be a specific thing as a programming piece, or how to use the device in a physical manner. How do you turn it on? How do you do certain things with your screens, etc. So those are some of the things that I've taken away in the way of, I now have knowledge of some needs from my staff, and from there I can begin to plan moving forward for some work in the classroom with them, and make a pitch to administration that, yeah, we do need some devices here to help our teachers within our school. So to conclude, from this activity, my takeaway is that the crowds are out there, all shapes and sizes. Find reliable crowds for the questions you have, and keep your personal learning alive and well.